Hello, fight fans. Welcome to episode 8 of the Fight Game with ST. I'm your host, ST, and apologies for the delay in the podcast upload. It's been a while since I last done one. I've just come back from India a few days ago, and unfortunately, I've been unwell. I've got the classical Indian tummy bug, and I'm still recovering, so I haven't been feeling too great. On the plus side, I've lost a bit of weight, which is nice. So without further ado, let's get right into it. I'm going to start off by reflecting on the sad passing of George Foreman, who passed away March 21st. It's 2 days ago now at the time of recording, at age 76. I haven't met him myself personally, but from everything I've read online, from the way other fighters speak about him, the way the great Jim Lampley speaks about him, he seemed to be a phenomenal, not just a phenomenal fighter, and a great businessman with his grills, but also a decent human being, a good Christian man, as his close friends would put it. What a wonderful two-part career he had. The first one spanning from age 20 to 28. The second one spanning from age 38, lasting 10 years, until his final fight with Shannon Briggs, which I thought he won. Great fighter, great businessman, and from what his friends say, a great human being, a good Christian man. And the boxing world will miss him very much. In terms of his boxing career, like I said, his first part one of his career rather, from age 20 to 28, in that period was his most, he had a few notable fights, 2 TKOs against Joe Frazier, and then a TKO against Ken Norton. But who could ever forget the famous, legendary Rumble in the Jungle when Foreman was 25 years of age, taking on Muhammad Ali in 1974. And what a great strategy that was by Muhammad Ali with his rope-a-dope strategy, tiring Foreman out and then eventually knocking him out. I believe was in round 8. A lot of media pundits at the time, fighters in that generation, feel that was a big psychological blow to George Foreman, and that he wouldn't quite ever be the same again. As Teddy Atlas would often correctly say, boxing is 80% mental, 20% physical, and I largely agree with him on that. He his final fight in part 1 of his career, age 28, was against Jimmy Young, which was an upset loss, and I think he had enough and went away for about 10 years. To this day, looking back on his career, I don't, 5 years, 4 or 5 years, fine, but to come back after 10 years, I'm pretty sure everyone in 1987 were thinking, what the hell is going on here, But he did come back, and part 2 lasted a bit longer. It lasted 10 years, a little longer than I like, to be honest. He built his way up to a world title shot against Evander Holyfield. And he lost that fight. Holyfield, the younger, fresher man, conclusively outboxed him. It was a chess match, more or less, but Holyfield was the better man that night on April 1991. He then lost against. He had a few comeback wins. Then he lost against Tommy Morrison, and I felt that personally, if I was born at the time, I was a few months old baby when he lost against Tommy Morrison. But if I was an adult at that time, I would have said that no, that's it. For Big George, it's time for him to call it quits and for him to retire. But he didn't, and I guess his legacy only enhanced in the very next fight against Michael Moorer, where he won the WBA and IBF world heavyweight titles by knocking out the young Michael Moorer, who was 26 years of age at the time, in round 10, knocking him out with a clean, flush right hand. And who could possibly forget those legendary, most memorable words, most memorable of all words, by Jim Lampley, when he said, "It happened. It actually happened." Boxing fans, even in my generation, looking back on Jim Lampley's career, will always remember that golden nugget of a commentary spell that he had in that fight, when he said it happened, it actually happened. George Foreman should have called it quits there and then, but he had a few more fights before retiring in 97. A phenomenal career, a great businessman. I hear he made an absolute fortune on his grill, and rightfully so. I'm always happy to see fighters do very well post-retirement with their respective businesses. And as I understand, George Foreman made upwards of about $200 million with his Foreman Grill ventures, and good for him, man. Really good. It's nice to see a fighter in retirement who's not broke, who's made a fortune through external means. He will be daily missed by the boxing world, and I'm sure in years to come people will continue doing documentaries about this wonderful fighter. I guess our only regret is that he didn't have a second fight with Muhammad Ali, but at least we got to see one of them. So yeah. Moving on now to other news in the boxing world. Dana White has signed a boxing league deal with Turki Al Sheikh, called the TKO Boxing League or something along those lines. Now, it's not supposed to go into operation until next year, but just looking at some of the key spines of or key parts of the spine of this new promotional company, it seems to be marketed as a low to middle tier boxing promotional company, just based on the purses that are scheduled to be paid out to fighters, ranging from 20,000 for a 10-round bout by an unranked fighter to $750,000 when defending the company championship. So definitely seems to have a UFC pay model approach. I guess the question is, there are fears by other promotional companies about whether or not this will not necessarily put them out of business, but reduce their business in the event that Dana White and Turki Al-Sheikh are able to monopolize the sport in the same way they've done, in the same way Dana has done with MMA, with the UFC brand. However, based on these purses that I'm reading, it seems that other promotional companies will very much remain in the picture, because the top fighters at Matchroom, Queensberry, Golden Boy, Top Rank, PBC, the head management of the company, the Eddie Hearns, the Frank Warrens, the Al Haymans, they will look at those purses and be like, well, the top fighters in our promotional stable, we'll pay them, we'll be able to match that and pay them higher by them fighting in-house. Especially the top fighters within this stable are not going to be earning anything close to 750k per year. They're going to be earning a lot more than that. So I don't feel, based on these purses, that these other promotional companies are going to be downgraded in the boxing world anytime soon. Dana White has made it clear that he's not interested in working with other sanctioning bodies or rival promoters, and that they'll have their own championship belt. Let's see how that plays out. He's essentially going to create a fifth belt. How the boxing world will see the fifth belt of the company championship belt, given that Dana has made it clear he doesn't want to work with other promoters, other sanctioning bodies, remains to be seen. Will the belt be seen as a legitimate world championship belt, or will it be seen as another IBO belt, which is not recognized on its own as a world championship, as a credible world championship title? So yeah, it'll be very, very interesting to see how this plays out and what it means for the other promoters in the game. Finally, before I get out of here, I just want to touch on the whole Eubank Benn saga and the whole excellent incident. The fight, I believe, is going to take place on April 26th at the Spurs Stadium. I still think this very much is a gimmick fight, because weight classes do exist for a reason, and that will be my central theme for the upcoming Canelo Crawford affair this September. But weight classes exist for a reason, and for that, I think this is a gimmick fight. I think it would be an interesting and excellent fight if both fighters were from the same weight class, but Conor Benn is jumping up 2 weight classes to fight a naturally much bigger man. I only see one winner here in Eubank Jr. as far as the fight is concerned. As far as the build-up is concerned, it's been nothing but box office fireworks. And because it's been box office fireworks, it will do very, very well as far as pay-per-view numbers are concerned. Both fighters have had viral moments. Loads of people tuning into the press conferences, to Piers Morgan. The whole excellent egg situation went viral. Smart marketer Eubank Jr. is. He's a very smart marketer. Now, my whole thoughts on the egg incident is that on one hand, Eubank Jr. is a very smart marketer in terms of creating a TikTok viral moment that will go everywhere and that will exponentially market and sell the fight even more as far as pay-per-view numbers are concerned. So in that respect, he's done both himself and Conor Benn a favour from a business perspective. On the other hand, as far as in his father's words, as in Eubank Jr.'s father's words are concerned, he's been an absolute disgrace as far as living up to the Warriors code, because that's not what warriors are supposed to do before a fight. So from a morality perspective, and even from a health and safety perspective, because let's be honest, Eubank Jr., as far as Conor is concerned, could have had anything in his hand, be that egg, be that glass, be that anything, and something sharp like that going into Conor Benn's eyes could have potentially been very damaging as far as the upcoming fight is concerned. So on one hand, it's a good marketing move by Eubank Jr., but as far as the Warriors code is concerned, and from a health and safety perspective, Eubank Jr. has been an absolute scumbag of the earth for what he's done. And I think the British Boxing Board of Control should absolutely fine him, because although the moment went viral, it's really not a good look on the sport. So those are my thoughts on the whole egg incident. I hope Conor Benn actually wins after that incident, because it will be it will fit that common slogan of karma being a bitch, and karma biting you back on your backside. So I hope Conor Benn wins, but it's going to be a significant uphill task for him, as will be the case with Terence Crawford. More on that later when he takes on Canelo Alvarez. So those are my thoughts so far on the recent boxing events, on the recent current affairs in the boxing world. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast. It will go a long way in terms of helping the show out. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye for now.